Hello my dear students, this is Dr. 𝗲𝗵𝗵𝗺, your biochemistry teacher. Well, in this video we are going to start up with the lipids. Lipids, which are again very important as a dietary constituent, because of all of us like fats, isn't it? So today what we are going to discuss in this video, what are these fats, whether they are useful for us, whether we should consume more fats or we should consume less fats, how these fats are degraded in the body, okay, and what is the clinical importance of these fats, right? So let's start up. Fats or lipids. Now these lipids, okay, by different names we refer these lipids. First of all, how do we define a lipid? Lipid is actually a triester of fatty acid and glycerol. So these two are the independent entities, right? Triester of fatty acid and glycerol. Just because of this reason, we call these lipids as TGs or triglycerides. We can refer them to as triacylglycerol also. So there are by different names we can call these lipids. So overall, the definition of a lipid is, or we can call them as fats. So overall, how do we define a fat? Fat is simply the triester of fatty acids and glycerol. Now if we talk about glycerol, we know it is a trihydric alcohol, okay. So say trihydric alcohol means it has 3 hydroxyl groups. This glycerol, when it will combine with 3 fatty acids, this is one fatty acid, CH2COOH. This is second fatty acid, and this is third fatty acid. We can say that simply 3 molecules of water will come out. That is why a ester is produced. So I can say that -3 water molecules, and what we get is we get a triester. So this type of structure we get CHO, C double bond O, CH2R1 connected only through this, through the glycerol part, CHO, C double bond O, CH2R2 and CH2O, C double bond O, CH2R3. So this is commonly known as neutral fat, or we can call them as triglycerides, right? So how do we define a fat? A fat is simply a ester of fatty acid and glycerol. And just because of this particular structure, the entire classification of these fats is based. So always remember that fat is different, fatty acid is different. We are making a fat from fatty acids, and whenever we are eating the fat which is going inside the body in the form of fatty acid and the glycerol or some other alcohol, right? So on the basis of this, we can differentiate lipids or fats into 3 major classes, and this classification was given by a very well-known scientist, Bloor. So I can say that as per Bloor classification of lipids, Bloor's classification of lipids or fats, we can classify them into 3 main classes. One, simple fat. Second class will be having conjugate fats. And third will be derived. So we can say that simple lipids, conjugate lipids or derived lipids, or simple fat, conjugate or derived lipids, right? Now what is the structural difference? Because सबसे पहले again, what is the biomedical significance of these lipids? Because you people are going to become doctors, or most of them of you already are doctors. What is the significance of these fats? Always remember, fats play a very, very important role as an instantaneous source of energy. First of all, whenever we are having excess amount of glucose in the body, or even if we are taking a carbohydrate rich meal, it will be converted and stored in the form of fats in the adipose tissue. Okay. Similarly, apart from this being a source of energy, they are required as they help in acting as the major components of the cell membrane. If we go back and if we think about Singer and Nicholson model, if we talk about any cell membrane model, always you must have seen there is a bilipid layer, right, which helps in the conduction, which helps in so many signal transduction is there, then you can say transportation is there, then you can say recognition of one cell with another cell. So many different things are there, and it is the one which is giving a semi-permeable nature to the cell membrane also. So lipids are very, very important, and obviously they are the dietary constituents also of the body, and whenever the body undergoes prolonged fasting, then lipids or the fats are the only source of energy left. And after fats comes the turn of proteins, because initially, say within 2 to 3 days, the entire carbohydrate reserve is depleted. So our body switches over from carbohydrate mode to the lipid mode. Okay, so that is what we all are going to discuss here. Now coming over to the simple fat, if I say simple fat comprises of simple lipids में neutral fat is there and waxes are there. If we talk about the conjugate lipids mane, conjugate means some other non-lipid part is associated with it. Okay, some non-lipid one. So if it is a phosphate, it becomes phospholipids. If it is a carbohydrate, it becomes glycolipids. Then if it has sulfur attached to it, it becomes sulfolipid. And the most important ones are the lipoproteins, because this lipoproteins come under proteins also, depending upon the amount of lipid, depending upon the amount of protein. So these are conjugate lipids. And coming over to derived lipids, derived mein we can say which have been derived from simple and conjugate lipids. So derived mein we can simply give the example of eicosanoids, right, eicosanoids which have been derived from simple or conjugate lipids. And then one more class is there which I will just mention in derived lipids. Basically it comes under miscellaneous lipids. So miscellaneous mein we can quote the example of cholesterol. Miscellaneous cholesterol, because cholesterol is the most important animal sterol in the body. Okay, so I can say that lipids are classified into 3 major classes: simple lipids, conjugate lipids and derived lipids. So neutral fat we have already discussed, right? So if I have to write a neutral fat, I can simply say that neutral fat is nothing but it is a ester of fatty acids and glycerol. Now glycerol we have already studied. We know what is glycerol. It is a trihydric alcohol which has 3 hydroxyl groups, like that. Now the question is, what is this fatty acid? Because fatty acids are the ones which are actually the major I would say components of building up of the fats, be it conjugate, be it derived. So what are these fatty acids? So first of all, we are going to discuss in detail the fatty acids, how these fatty acids combine with glycerol, and when phosphate is attached, how phospholipids are produced, how glycolipids are produced, like that. So let's discuss these fatty acids first. Now if we talk about fatty acids, how do we define them? They are the simple molecules which have a hydrocarbon at one end and a carboxylic group at the other end. Right. So this is the general structure of a fatty acid. This is hydrophobic, and this is hydrophilic. Right, and on the basis of this particular thing, the entire classification of fatty acids is based. Whenever we talk about drug delivery system, because of this property, the fatty acids or the fats have a tendency to form micelles, and just because of this hydrophobic and hydrophilic terminals, the fat is forming a lipid bilayer. Okay, hydrophobic are the ones which are inside and hydrophilic are the ones. Hydrophilic means they love water, hydrophobic means they are scared of water. So if they are scared of water, they will be inside, and the ones which love water, they will be exposed outside. So this justifies the entire structure of cell membrane also. Okay. So depending upon this structure, fatty acids have a unique system of classification. So what are the different ways of classifying these fatty acids? So classification. The first way of classification of fatty acids is as per the carbon atoms. As per the carbon atom, we can classify fatty acids into 4 major classes. One is 𝗓𝗵, which stands for short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids. Then comes MCFA, stands for medium chain fatty acid. Then comes LCFA, which are long chain fatty acids. And comes VLCFAs. VLCFAs means very long chain fatty acids. So if we have to define how many carbon atoms are there, short chain fatty acids, you can say C3 to C4. Medium chain fatty acids might be C4 to C8 or C9. If we talk about long chain fatty acids, it can vary from C10 to C16 or C18. And if we talk about very long chain fatty acids, more than C20. So this is classification of the fatty acids as per their carbon atoms. Now why I am telling you this is important? Because again, whenever we talk about the transport of fatty acids, Because when we are having something in our diet, we are not particular about this na कि whether we are having 𝗲𝗵𝗃s or MCFAs or LCFAs. हम लोग क्या खाते हैं? What we have in our diet? We only have fat in our diet, and that fat is degraded into fatty acid and glycerol. So these fatty acids, how they undergo absorption, how they undergo assimilation is what metabolism all about. And being doctors, we should know what is the fault, where lies the fault in this metabolism. Okay. So as per the number of carbon atoms, we can classify them into 4 major classes, right? Then second way of classifying them is as per nutritional requirement, so as per nutritional requirement, we classify these fatty acids into basically 2 main types, okay? And what are these 2 main types? Essential and non-essential. Now, if we talk about, we have already discussed about amino acids, what are essential, what are non-essential, okay. So here we can say only 2 classes are there, essential, non-essential. We all know essentials kaun se hote hain, they cannot be synthesized in the body and they have to be provided from outside diet. And non-essential are the ones which can be easily synthesized in the body. So you can see that fats are synthesized in the body, okay. So if we talk about essential fatty acids, they are 5 now: linoleic acid, linolenic acid, okay, arachidonic acid, right, then 𝗲𝗏𝗃hexanoic acid, and 𝗃osa-pentanoic acid. Okay, so here arachidonic acid is considered to be semi-essential. Why it is semi-essential? Because it is synthesized from linoleic acid, which is the most essential one. So if we talk about all the 5 major essential fatty acids, linoleic acid is considered to be the most essential one. Arachidonic acid is considered to be a semi-essential one, and linoleic acid is required for the synthesis of arachidonic acid, right? So I can say that arachidonic acid is synthesized from linoleic acid, and PLP is required for the conversion. PLP, or which is vitamin B6, is required. Very important, right? Now the question is, if they are essential, that means they are leading to some important things in the body. So what are their functions? Just now I told you before starting up with the video only कि these fatty acids or fats वैसे भी play a very very important role, being an instantaneous source of energy, and they are required for the synthesis of the basic steroid hormones. Like we know that steroidal hormones, if we talk about the sex hormones, they are actually synthesized from cholesterol. Cholesterol is nothing but an animal sterol. And cholesterol is also synthesized in the body, no doubt we get it in the diet also, but it is synthesized also in the body. Similarly, fats are also synthesized in the body. Fats, they are giving a lining, yeah, you can say they are protecting the myelin sheath. They are helping in the making the cell membrane semi-permeable. So those so many important features of this thing are there. Okay. So now if we talk about this linolenic acid, this linolenic acid occurs in two forms. One is alpha-linolenic acid and gamma-linolenic acid. Right? And obviously linoleic acid has 2 double bonds, linolenic acid has 3 double bonds, arachidonic acid has 4 double bonds. But if we count the number of carbon atoms, they are 18, 18 and 20. Okay. So now see what are the sources of these. Now sources are very, very important. Jaise, for example, if we talk about the sources here, always remember linoleic acid का richest source is safflower oil. Richest source. Rest is sunflower oil. Even sunflower has linoleic acid, but this is the richest one. Then if we talk about linolenic acid, first of all alpha linolenic acid. The richest source of alpha linolenic acid are the flax seeds. Commonly we call them 𝗲𝗵𝗵, because you must have heard that 𝗲𝗵𝗵 is very good because it is rich in antioxidants or it is rich in alpha linolenic acid. Okay. Then third is gamma linolenic acid. Gamma linolenic acid का richest source is oil of evening primrose. This is a kind of flower, evening primrose. Then comes 𝗖𝗵𝗵pentanoic acid. Now 𝗖𝗵𝗵pentanoic acid का richest source are the fish oils. Basically cod liver oil, algal oils, they are the rich source of 𝗖𝗵𝗵pentanoic acid. And the fifth one is docosahexaenoic acid. Now this DHA, nowadays DHA is given very much kind of preference because DHA is found to be present in mother's milk. Right. So these are the 5 essential fatty acids and their sources. Okay. So safflower oil is considered to be the richest source of linoleic acid. Alpha linolenic acid is present in bulk in 𝗲𝗵𝗵 or the flax seeds. Gamma is present in the oil of evening primrose. EPA, which is 𝗖𝗵𝗵pentanoic acid, is present in bulk in cod liver oil and algal oils, or DHA, which is present in mother's milk. And DHA ka to nowadays so many companies are, like if we talk about Bonvita, if we talk about Complan, they always emphasize on this DHA because DHA is required for the development of the brain of the child also. Development of child's brain. Very important. Okay. Now the question is, what is the feature of this? Why they are essential? Why they are essential? Because again I told you so many roles they have to perform. Now what if they are deficient from the diet? Deficiency of essential fatty acids. The most important one is essential fatty acids की deficiency will lead to increase in the CVDs. Right? Increase in the CADs. and it will obviously increase the level of TGs, level of cholesterol. And most important one is if we talk about the fat-soluble vitamins. Fat-soluble vitamins are the ones which are soluble in the fats. So automatically again they will be also defective. And it will finally lead to pheroderma. Pheroderma, it's like the skin of a toad. So pheroderma is toad skin. So we can say that deficiency of these essential fatty acids will lead to these. So obviously they have to be provided in the diet. Right? So this is another way of classification of these. And one more thing, yes, this arachidonic acid I told you, arachidonic acid is synthesized from linoleic acid, and you know arachidonic acid is responsible for the synthesis of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are actually the secretions of the prostate gland which are generally raised or released during acute inflammation. Right? And that is why I have written arachidonic acid, since it is responsible for the synthesis of prostaglandins, but it is synthesized from linoleic acid, so we call it as a semi-essential fatty acid. Okay? So here I can write that arachidonic acid is required for prostaglandins. Arachidonic acid, synthesis of prostaglandins. Right? Then another way of classification of these fatty acids is after nutritional requirement as per the bonds. Now, when we talk about as per the bonds, these fatty acids are classified into, again, two main categories: saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. Okay, if we talk about saturated fatty acids, obviously they have a single bond. And if we talk about the saturated fatty acids, so many examples are there. But we will be sticking only to the major ones which you people also have heard. If we talk about palmitic acid comes under saturated fatty acids. Coconut oil is a rich source of saturated fatty acids. Butter, it will come under saturated fatty acids. And if we talk about unsaturated fatty acids, means they have a double bond. So if it can have a single double bond, or it can have a more than one double bond. More than one double bond. So single bond mein we can quote the examples of oleic acid or palmitoleic acid. And more than one double bond, they are known as PUFAs. We all are familiar with this. इनको हम बोलते हैं, we call them as MUFAs and we call them as PUFAs. Right? And PUFAs will include, obviously, linoleic acid will be there, linolenic will be there, all will come under PUFA or gamma linolenic acid. So we can say that MUFA and PUFA will come under unsaturated fatty acids. We normally prefer a diet which is rich in unsaturated fatty acids. Why? Because again, you can say they also come under the category of essential fatty acids. Now the question is, एक तो one question which might strike your mind is कि why essential fatty acids cannot be synthesized in the body. They cannot be synthesized in the body because there is no enzyme machinery present which will incorporate a double bond after 9th carbon atom. Okay, so I will write it here also that you can say essential fatty acids or unsaturated fatty acids or essential fatty acids cannot be synthesized in the body because no enzyme can put a double bond after carbon 9. This is very important. Before that, automatically enzymes are present and they can be synthesized. So this is classification as per the number of double bonds. Then after this, then we come over to another way of classifying, which is actually very, very important, omega system of classification. Omega system of classification. Now, first of all, what is this omega carbon atom? Right, omega is actually the farthest carbon atom. Is the farthest so omega is the farthest carbon atom. For example, suppose if this is a fatty acid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, right, and obviously if it is a unsaturated fatty acids we can incorporate double bond. Double bond is always produced on alternate positions like this. I am not writing the valencies of carbon acid because this is this is obvious because carbon is tetravalent. Now, as per International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, we always used to give functional group the preference. Okay? So the numbering was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So as per IUPAC naming, what will be this? This will be 2,4-hexanoic acid. 2,4-hexanoic acid. But as per omega system of classification, we see omega is the farthest carbon atom. So we will decide at which position double bond is present. So we can see the double bond at second position. So we will call it as omega 2 series, right. So we can say that omega, since it is the farthest carbon atom, we are going to count from the farthest carbon atom where this double bond is present. So since this double bond is present on the second carbon atom, it will become omega 2 series, and that is why omega also omega system of classification also plays a very, very important role. Now coming over to this, what is the significance of this? So we classify as per omega into omega 3 and omega 6. The fatty acids are differentiated on the basis of omega 3 and omega 6, and omega 6 in comparison to omega 3 is considered to be harmful, and omega 3 is considered to be cardioprotective in action. And if we talk about the examples of omega 3, the most important example is it will have DHA or docosahexaenoic acid, right, we call it as cervonic acid also, and eicosapentanoic acid which is known as timnodonic acid, eicosapentanoic acid. And if we talk about omega 6, omega में gamma linolenic acid, linoleic acid and arachidonic acid will come. Right? And here if we talk about omega 3, dicosa, icosa and alpha linolenic acid will come. Right? And always remember, omega 3 is considered to be cardioprotective in action. In nature, very important. And why they are cardioprotective? Because they decreases the level of TGs, they decrease the level of cholesterol, they decreases the risk of CVDs. Very important. They decreases the risk of CADs. Right? So this is the classification as per omega system, omega 3, omega 6. And always remember, omega 3 is cardioprotective. Right, so we can say that omega 3, since it is cardioprotective, it will always lower the risk of TGs, lower the risk of cholesterol, lowers the risk of CVDs and CADs. So we should always prefer these omega 3 fatty acids in the diet. There is one more category, omega 9, which include palmitoleic acid. Okay, so you just have to remember omega 3 and omega 6. Then the last way of classifying these is as per the isomerism. Now, if we talk as per the isomerism, they are simply divided into two categories, cis and trans. Cis fatty acids and trans fatty acids. Now, they are also known as TFAs. Always remember, TFAs are very harmful because they are produced by catalytic hydrogenation. They are very harmful. Why? Because as they are produced by catalytic hydrogenation. So generally one should prefer not to have these TFAs in the diet, catalytic hydrogenation. And the reason is these TFAs will always increase. TFAs will always increase the level of TGs. Most important is they increase the level of cholesterol. And that is why it is like a threat, and it is giving a threat to lead to CVDs. Right? So this is how we classify the different type of fatty acids, and this is very important. So I can just summarize everything. I can say that these fatty acids can be classified as per carbon atoms, number of carbon atoms, SCFAs and all, because they are going to play a very important role during the digestion, absorption and assimilation. Then fatty acids can be classified as per nutritional requirement, essential, semi-essential and non-essential. And these fatty acids can also be classified as per the omega system, omega which is the farthest carbon atom. And they can be also classified as per isomerism, means cis and trans, and as per the double bonds. Right. So these fatty acids are the ones which are leading to the formation of the fat. So simply this fatty acid, when it will combine with glycerol, it will form a fat or a lipid. Right? So that is what our first base, the first class says. If we are talking about the simple lipids, under simple lipids we will have what? We will have neutral fat and waxes. So neutral fat is nothing but the 𝗲𝗔s, and if we talk about the waxes, waxes have alcohol, means fatty acid will be there, but alcohol is not glycerol. Not glycerol, okay, but it will be a triester. So this is all about the chemistry of the fatty acids, and just now we have just discussed the first class of lipids, which is simple lipids. So this is all in this video. In the next video we will be discussing about the conjugate lipids, because conjugate lipids are also very, very important. Now you will see the only difference between them will be the triester will be the same, but along with this 𝗲𝗔s, some more group will be added. If it is phosphate, it becomes a phospholipid. If sulfur, it becomes a sulfolipid. If carbohydrate, it becomes a glycolipid. And if protein is added, it becomes a lipoprotein. So this all we are going to cover in our next video. So I hope now the difference between a fatty acid and a fat is clear to you. Fatty acids are the ones which are going to make a fat, which commonly we call them as lipids, but technically, or you can say clinically, we always call them as 𝗲𝗔s or the triglycerides. Matlab hi kya hai? Triglycerides, the triesters of fatty acid and glycerol. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much.